From ABC News Radio, KMET 1490 in Southern California, this is BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio with your host, Tyler Jorgensen.
Welcome out to BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio. I'm your host, Tyler Jorgensen, and I get to have the pleasure today of visiting with Ross Williams, who is the founder of Modern Profits and modernprofitscruise.com. We're going to talk with Ross a little bit about why he's so awesome, he's Rossum, and about why, how he got started in the entrepreneurial world just because he didn't want to start partying or stop partying. So welcome out to the show, Ross.
Hey man, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You got it. So what was that first thing in your life where you realized maybe you're an entrepreneur?
The first thing in my life, back even when I was a child, I remember drawing these photos and walking around my neighborhood trying to sell them for 10 cents a piece door to door. So it kind of started out as a kid. And then as I got a little bit older, I started going door to door trying to get people to let me do car washes, anything basically just to kind of start my own little business as a kid. I was always working. Yeah. And
so, I think sometimes, entrepreneurs, it's pretty quick, right? Like you start realizing that you see things differently than your friends pretty quickly. So you were telling me a little bit of a story about, how your business kind of started and started doing event marketing. Recap that for us.
Yeah. So I actually started off in outside sales. Interestingly enough, I was in beauty supply sales. I was wholesaling to hair salons, and I had to change. The company I was working for had changed their distribution model, and they were going from direct distribution, which means my whole department basically was eliminated. So I had to change companies. And in doing so, I took about a $12,000 a year pay cut. So I basically was looking at my budget and I said, man, I either got to stop going out on the weekends or find a way to make an extra $1,000 a month. And it kind of it started off, the bar asked me if I could help them out to bring in a crowd. And so it kicked off, I think, on Saturday tailgate parties during football season. They asked me to come out and build an event for them. So I built this thing where we brought out cornhole boards and beer pong tables and produced this whole Saturday event. People would come. They'd literally come in at 10 a.m. for breakfast, brunch, buckets of beer, hang out, buy lunch. 10 p.m. they're having dinner and still there. So we turned this thing into like a mecca on a Saturday, and it kind of just spiraled into my event business. So basically the bar was paying me to be there, paying me or giving me a free bar tab. And so I was able to not only make that extra $1,000 a month, but save $1,000 because I wasn't spending money on any drinks or food. So it was pretty awesome. And then it kind of grew from there.
Awesome. So, it's amazing how often, the things that spark the entrepreneurial spirit are, it's necessity. Sometimes we have an amazing idea and we just feel the call to chase that. And sometimes it's like, I'm not willing to make an adjustment to my lifestyle. How do I get creative and solve this?
Right.
It sounds like yours was a little bit of combination of those two, where you found something you already enjoyed and leveraged it into an opportunity. What, it's one thing to get cornhole boards and throw an event. How did you actually start getting people there?
I actually did it through Facebook, and it was before they even had Facebook ads. So I had to do everything manually. I was just requesting friends that set up an event page, request friends to come. I do posts, I call people, text them, get them to come out, word of mouth, and basically just created an environment that they weren't getting anywhere else, and giving them something to do more than just watching a football game, but creating an experience. And it just kind of spread like wildfire.
It's amazing back in the early days of Facebook, right, where you could do an event and have people just share it, and it could be local events could share kind of virally. Now you've got to put some fuel on the fire yourself and do that. But I think the same principles are the same, right? You got to make something interesting that people want to share and want to attend. But just because of Facebook's current setup, you might have to pay to play to get some exposure.
Yeah, you got to definitely make the event unique and desirable so people want to come to it. Because now, because of Facebook, lots of people are doing events because it became easier to get that reach. So you definitely have to make yourself stand apart, create a unique experience for the consumer and something they can't get somewhere else.
So what type of events would you say are good opportunities for businesses to do these days?
So we kind of rolled when I kind of moved past the weekly like happy hours and things like that. I still do restaurant and bar marketing to help them build those. But I grew into more an events driven business where I do New Year's Eve parties, St. Patrick's Day parties. I even sometimes just do costume parties just because I want to wear a certain costume, honestly. Like we just put stuff together. So I do group cruises. A lot of times my friends are sitting around and they're like, man, I wish there was something, like XYZ that we could all do together. And I'll just go build it and create it and make it happen. So a lot of times just for businesses, just ask your customers what they want to do or what they would like to do. What's their dream vacation? What's the perfect night out on the town? What's the reason for them to get dressed up and do a weekend, event or things like that? And then you literally just build it. You just come up with a concept and build it.
So a lot of it's just being willing to actually experiment and try, right? So if so many businesses will talk about what they think they should do or what they might be able to do, but they never actually just, pull their customers and then take action.
Exactly.
How important is that just in events, just moving from the idea stage into the action taking stage?
Oh, it's 100% important. You definitely have to take action. You have to create it, and you don't always get a winner, but it's pretty hard to get a loser, actually, though. So sometimes you knock it out of the park, but like there's always some sort of interest, and a lot of events, even if they break even, if you create a really good customer experience that then they're talking about it. It builds your audience, you build your following. So each event becomes easier and easier as those people are like, oh my God, these events are so awesome. They're always fun. It's a great time. It builds it kind of organically just through that experience. So they get bigger each time.
Yeah. If you have one event that maybe doesn't quite hit all your metrics, but it creates a little bit of FOMO for everyone else, right? And that network. A lot of what you've done historically is localized events, right? But then you're starting to do destination events and vacations and other things. How has that changed, how you have to approach marketing as you think about a larger audience?
So as far as doing destination events, it changes the marketing quite a bit because the tricky part is getting people most people, 80% of your people are going to buy tickets to your event the 2 to 3 days before. When you're doing a destination event, I need them paid in full 90 days in advance, which means I got to start marketing them a year to a year and a half in advance, somehow get them committed with deposits or some sort of micro commitments along the way to spark their interest. And you also got to do a lot more education. You got to teach them about how that cruise ship works or how the hotels or the resorts work so that they have an understanding of why they need to book early and get in there, and they got to start planning early. So you got to constantly stay in front of them with education and knowledge and just that base time. You also have to get into a little bit more phone calls and texting and emails where your local events, you don't quite have to be as aggressive with the personal contact. You can kind of rely on the social media. When you start doing destination events, you got to give it a lot more personal contact and education for sure.
So you're working on the Modern Profits cruise. Is this the first that you've done of that in that iteration or that concept?
It is the first Modern Profits cruise for entrepreneurs. It's not the first cruise I've done. So I've been doing a group cruise for about 8 years now, where I take about 400 people on a group destination vacation. And what's happened is I've noticed that every time these people come on this vacation, and it's literally just for a fun time, right? We do costume parties every night. We do beach parties. We do networking events. We just get people kind of like intermingled together. I've noticed that when they get off that boat, those friendships maintain and they stay for a long period of time. And a lot of these people have gone on that boat with 1 or 2 people and walked off that boat with 200 or 300 like friends that they actually stay in contact with, that they hang out with, that they do things with every weekend. And I saw this connection within the community. And I thought to myself, how do I take this connection that I'm building for a local community and offer it for an entrepreneurial community, which is kind of where I really love to sit, and I love going to these conferences. So that's why I put together the Modern Profits Cruise, because I want to give that same opportunity for entrepreneurs to connect that I'm giving to just local, party goers. So we're combining the essence of a conference and learning experience with top-notch expert industry speakers with networking events that are going to help to break the ice, get these entrepreneurs out of the introverted selves and into the extroverted selves so they can actually meet each other. We're going to do excursions and beach parties together so that you're not only learning and networking, but you're connecting as friendships. So I truly believe that if entrepreneurs, when they spend all that time together on a destination, learning, networking vacation, that when they build these friendships, they're going to be able to take their businesses to a whole new level than if they're just out there exchanging business cards. So that's my goal with this, is really to help these entrepreneurs create true long-lasting relationships and friendships. And together we can build a lot more.
So, and when is the cruise, and how long have you been planning it?
So the cruise is in October. It's October 21st. I have been working on this. The idea came to fruition, honestly, about 2 years ago. And I started kind of looking into what it would take to pull this off. As far as actual planning the event, once I decided to pull the trigger, I've been working on it probably for almost a year now, in the planning stages, booking the cruise, locking it in, getting all the facilities on board the boat, all the marketing, the websites, everything up and running. So it's definitely been a task, but I'm super excited about it. And, we're rocking and ready to roll with it.
So obviously people should go to modernprofitscruise.com and check that out. What lessons are you learning from that experience and from other event planning? Like, when you plan 18 months, 2 years out for an event, what are the marketing lessons that can be applied into people's business in the short term?
So basically, one thing I've learned, especially when doing these cruises and bigger events like this, is you have to ask the consumer and people that are visiting your websites, what did you see on my website? How did have them explain your own event to you? Because a lot of times what happens, what I look at that makes perfect sense to me, they look at it and they're confused. So, I actually just last week went on, I had a bunch of people come to me asking me questions, and I said, well, that information's right on the homepage. But they weren't grabbing it. So I went on there and I literally just reworded or broke it down in a different manner. So, and I do that every week. So every week when I find people that, oh, we went to your website, we're excited, we're going to go on your cruise. I'm like, great, tell me about your experience on the website. Tell me about were you confused at all? Did everything make sense? So you have to constantly adjust that. And what I find is every year, even with the cruise I've been doing for 7 years, the Ultimate Party Cruise, we every year it gets better and better and better, because people are like, I was a little confused on this part here, or if they call me and ask me a question, you take that question and you go change something on your website so that question no longer exists. And you have to constantly
yeah. It blows my mind that how often an entrepreneur will get stuck on something and say, well, I really like how the website's laid out. And it's like, well, that's great, but the website's not for you, the business owner. The website's for the consumer or your clients. And so if it's not clear, and if you're not willing to change and make adjustments and change what the call to actions, or change things, the information to improve that, you're going to be leaving clients and money on the table, right? So you're to kind of summarize your idea there, it's being reactive and adjusting your marketing and your messaging and your website based on the feedback that comes. And you're constantly polling your clients to see what should be updated and changed.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's not just reactive, it's also proactive. So you have to react to the questions that come to you, but sometimes you have to go dig for those questions as well. So you have to actually ask people, what was your experience? Did this make sense? Does that make sense? And get them to, because sometimes they're hesitant to tell you, they don't want to, but you have to do that. And you got to make those tweaks and changes so that each time you do it, it becomes easier and easier for the masses to understand.
Absolutely. So you've done a lot of different types of events. What are the hardest types of events to fill, and what are the lessons from that?
So, it's funny that one of the hardest events I do actually is the New Year's Eve party. And it's just because it's grown to the pure size of it. And we go to do the production, and you got multiple stages and lighting and sound. I have 4 DJs. We got to figure out where to place the bars, the structure. And this one that we just did, I think we had about 8,000 people come to it. So you're just talking about a massive event. But then you're talking about, from a marketing and sales standpoint, the scaling of it. How do you get 8,000 people to show up to one place at one time on that most heavily marketed night of the year? And I'm in a city, Orlando, where we have, Disney, Universal Studios, Wall Street, Church Street. We got major nightclubs. And here I am in the middle of a neighborhood street getting 8,000 people to come to me instead of going to these venues. So it's really a lot to do with building an audience, retargeting, and educating that audience to come out to your event.
So, there's, in the entrepreneurial world, there's a handful of types of events, right? There's kind of your low ticket to free, where they just want to fill up a massive, as many people as you can,
Yep.
Get them in there, right? They're doing a lot of free tickets and things like that. And then you move into like the low ticket, mid ticket range, or maybe a ticket's a couple $100. But then you go up into those higher level, let's just call them $1,000 plus, either, high level or mastermind type things, right? How does marketing change with each of those steps?
It changes dramatically. The higher the ticket price, the more education is going to come into it, and the slower it's going to take for that person to make a decision. So it also, the stress of it from the event planner is, you're on the line, you typically, for a lot more expense. So you need those people to buy early, but at the same token, they're naturally educating themselves to buy later. So you have to kind of fight that battle on the high ticket. But it's about all the levels. It's about staying in front of them. At the high ticket, it's a lot more education. So your commercials, your ads, your posts have to be teaching them why they need to come to the event, about the event, the importance of it. The low ticket, it's kind of just give them something that they're going to want to come to. You got to kind of oversell it to see who shows up. And then the middle ticket, again, it's kind of right there. It sits in the middle of the two. Yeah. So you're still going to do a little bit of both, but you may not have to do it as heavily. So as the price goes up too, as I mentioned before, it becomes more hands-on. You might have to call them, and talk to them on the phone, schedule, some appointments or texting conversations, answering those questions to get them on the high tickets. There's usually less questions with the lower tickets, so it's a easier, more direct marketing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think so. The price point goes up, the touch points, the education, the intimacy, like all of that has to increase as well. Mm-hmm. And probably things like changing really what the big benefit is for attending, right? Because the sacrifice is greater, both from, right, at least financially.
Right. So you got to educate them why should they sacrifice? So.
Yeah. What when as you work with a lot of entrepreneurs, you see a lot of entrepreneurs, attend events, but then you've got your consumer facing opportunities. What would you say the major difference is from marketing to like consumer facing opportunities, where it's come to a party and just have a good time is probably the main call to action, and business facing, like with Modern Profits Cruise?
Yeah. So with a consumer based event, it's more about what's cool, so that unique, costume or experience, or who's the DJ or the band, and just, hey, it's going to be a lot of fun. Come on out. All your friends are going to be here type deal. When you switch over to the entrepreneurial, that mindset isn't the fun party. It's the, what am I going to learn? How's it going to increase my business? Can I apply this to my business right away to get results out of it? Who am I going to meet that can change my business? So it evolves into what am I going to get out of it that's actually going to change my life, versus I'm just going to have a good time on a Friday night. So you got to really pinpoint that marketing with the entrepreneur as to what's going to impact their business through your event.
What I'm sure, through doing all of these events as well as your entrepreneurial journey, you've had some obstacles. Like, what's one of the biggest challenges you've had to face, and how'd you overcome it?
So some of the challenges is basically getting the help, right? So I'm like a one-man band. So I've been doing the graphics, the web pages, the marketing, the planning the event, the scheduling, the hiring, the entertainment, the everything from start to finish. So the biggest hurdle or obstacle is actually breaking that down so that you can actually have people come in and help you do certain things. Being able to actually release tasks, right? Like I was also the cameraman and the videographer for so long too. And you just have to kind of learn that you can't, even if you can do everything, you can't do everything all at one time. So you have to relinquish yourself of certain tasks and find a good team of people to help you. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to grow and you're going to be stuck at this certain level.
Yeah, and you're going to start seeing a diminished output from each of the roles, right? Like if you're trying to be the videographer for an 8,000 person New Year's Eve event, you're also not going to be as good of a host, right? Because you're going to be
exactly.
one of the two is going to suffer. And so how have you been starting to do that? Have you been leaning in towards delegation and teamwork?
Yeah, so basically, probably about a year or two ago, I really started looking into, the first thing I probably was comfortable giving up was the photography and videography. And it's really difficult for me because I'm very particular about photos for my events. Event photography is very different from studio photography or, object photography. So I've had to blaze through a lot of photographers where I'm like, man, I do that better than you, and I'm not even trained. Like, so it's very different. So you just kind of got to go through them. For a while, I still did it, even though I hired them, because if they sucked, I needed a backup plan. So, right. But then once I found a team of 2, 3, 4, 5 photographers I could count on, that I could trust, then I was able to step away from that. And the same thing with the videographers. I now have teams of DJs and musicians that I know I can count on that are going to show up with the equipment they need and all of that. And then one thing that I've actually just done recently is these events have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. I just reached out to my network and I said, hey, who in here loves to do events, loves to be a host, likes to be the social butterfly, wants to be involved? And what's crazy is I had 85 people reach out to me via Facebook after I did that post on Facebook. And I said, wow, I didn't realize there was that much response. So I literally made an event. For 6 days later, I called a venue, I booked this thing, we got it out, I put together a PowerPoint presentation. We had 20 of those 80 people actually show up to the live event on a Wednesday night. And I gave them a whole PowerPoint of, here's the areas I need help. And they filled out applications. They said which areas they want to help in. And so now I have a team of 20 people to reach out to whenever I need help for whatever purpose. And it's pretty cool. I was really not expecting that. And it was a nice little transition for me to realize there's a lot of people out there that want to help or want to be involved. So just asking in that manner. And now it's a matter of, okay, now I have to break things down and delegate specific tasks to them and bring them on board and start training them and teaching them. But I just know that it's going to help grow tenfold by having a team behind me that can help.
It sounds like, that's actually kind of a repeating theme with you, right? Is creating an open feedback loop where you have to go proactively solicit what's working, what's needed. Hey, put it out there that you need help or that you're looking for people, right? But then then when that comes through, right, you're working through it as well. And, it seems that with each part of your business, that's become part of how you do this, is really just finding out who's available, who wants to help, what kind of things they're looking for, what makes sense to them, what doesn't, and adjusting quickly.
Yeah, you definitely have to adjust quickly and make some changes, but you also have to be open-minded and listen to feedback, because it's not about me, it's about the community that we're making these events for.
What are some of your big goals for 2019?
So for 2019, we want to sell out the Modern Profits cruise. My goal is to get 400 entrepreneurs on that ship and create 400 friendships. I want everyone coming off that boat with not business cards, but true relationships. I am also launching the Modern Profits Party, which is going to be a monthly networking event for entrepreneurs as well. That's going to be a community where we're also going to have an online trainings and speakers and stuff as well that they can connect to. So even if you can't make the event, you can still get the information. So that's my one of my goals here for that as well. And then to bring in the my American Happy Hour consumer parties, and those are starting to take off substantially with my different partnerships and stuff. So
Very cool. So lots of good stuff. With the Modern Profits Cruise, October 21st, 2019, where is that departing from? Where's it going?
So the cruise is going out of Port Canaveral, Florida. It's on a Monday. We board the ship, and it's going to Nassau, Bahamas. It's going to the private island of Coco Cay. It's on Royal Caribbean's Mariner of the Seas. This boat, I actually just toured it last month, and it is absolutely beautiful. The facilities and the venues in there are going to be amazing. So that's really, really awesome. The island of Coco Cay, by the time we cruise, they will have a $160 million renovation finished. It's going to be like the #1 like private island in the world. Absolutely unbelievable. It honestly looks like a vacation resort, private island. It's pretty awesome. So yeah, we're out of Port Canaveral. We go to Nassau in the Bahamas. We go to the Coco Cay. It's a Monday to a Friday, so it's a nice 5 days to feel the experience. We already have a dozen like top-notch speakers lined up to speak with you, and it's going to be the perfect blend of conference, networking parties, and vacation all wrapped up into one.
Very cool. So, and it sounds like people, one of the things they're going to need to get sorted out, they're going to have a passport, right?
Actually, you do not have to have a passport.
Very cool.
No.
Good.
So this particular cruise, it's the one loophole in all the cruises because it's going from Florida to the Bahamas. You can get on board with a certified birth certificate or a passport. So either one.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, so I always like to say that, for entrepreneurship is about building the life you want. It actually seems like that's what you do is you use your entrepreneurship to fuel your lifestyle. What's one major item on your personal bucket list that you want to accomplish in 2019?
So personal, when so you're saying step away from the business world?
That's
which
right.
Is very difficult for us entrepreneurs to do because
yes, it is
personal for us. Honestly, right now I'm on a mission. I'm 4 weeks steady back into the gym. So I'm on a mission to get my college body back. I want to get lean and be in shape so that by the time we hit this cruise, I'm going to look good on the beach.
Nice. Awesome. Well, that's awesome. So please, guys, go check out modernprofitscruise.com. You can learn more about Ross Williams there. He's got, a ton of websites and other places you can find him too. I'll link to more of those things in the description if you're listening on iTunes or if you're watching on YouTube, check down below. But thank you all so much. Thanks, Ross, for coming out. Now it's your turn. You got it. It's your turn. Go out and do something.
Thank you for listening to BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio with Tyler Jorgensen. Please make sure to subscribe so you're first to hear new interviews and episodes. If you found this podcast to be valuable, please share it with a friend. Don't forget to visit our online dojo at bizninja.com to claim your reward for listening to the show.